Vórtices del Misterio Podcast. Hoy, Varginha, el Roswell brasilero.
Hey everyone, welcome back. You ready to dive deep into some seriously strange stuff? Because today, we're headed straight to Varginha, Brazil.
Buckle up, because this one's a wild ride.
It sure is. It's 1996, and this place, Varginha, becomes the center of this huge UFO thing. We're talking sightings, rumors, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, it's often called Brazil's Roswell. And once you hear the details, you'll see why.
I bet. So you sent over a ton of info on this, articles, reports, even some personal notes. Looks like you've been digging into Varginha yourself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how can you resist a good UFO mystery?
Right.
Especially one with this much buzz around it.
Right. So let's unpack this together, shall we? We've got eyewitness accounts to go through, official statements, and of course, all those unanswered questions. Let's jump right in.
Sounds good to me. All right. Now, it all starts with these 3 young women, teenagers really. Just picture you're hanging out with your friends and you stumble across, well, something you just can't explain. That's what happened to Liliane and Valkyria Fatima Silva and their friend Katya.
Right. And what they described seeing was pretty unsettling.
Yeah, from what I understand, they reported seeing this creature, and it wasn't your typical, I saw a shadowy figure kind of thing. They gave pretty specific detail.
They did. I mean, they described it as being about 4 feet tall with this really strange, oily-looking brown skin.
Okay, that's already pretty creepy. But there's more, right?
Oh, yeah, it gets weirder. They said it had this large head, way out of proportion, and these huge red eyes.
Red eyes! Man, that sends chills down my spine. Isn't that a recurring thing in a lot of these UFO encounters, those red eyes?
It's definitely a common thread, yeah. Makes you wonder if it's something our brains just cook up out of fear, or if there's something more to it.
Yeah, good point. So we've got these freaked out teenagers, they see this bizarre creature, and naturally, word starts to spread.
And that's when things really start to escalate. We've got more sightings being reported, rumors flying around Varginha like crazy. It's like the whole town was caught up in it.
Yeah, and someone even reported seeing a similar creature by the side of the road. And get this, that's when the rumors about military involvement kicked in. People started saying they saw military trucks in the area, like something big was going down.
That's classic though, right? One strange thing happens, and suddenly everyone's seeing UFOs and government conspiracies everywhere.
I guess it's human nature, isn't it? We try to make sense of the unknown, and sometimes our imaginations run wild. But it's not just about the creature sightings, is it? One of the sources you sent mentioned a farm owner, Aurelina, and her husband, Eurico, who claimed to have seen a UFO around the same time.
Oh yeah, that's a really interesting detail. They said their livestock were acting totally freaked out too, which just adds to the whole eerie vibe.
Yeah, like something was messing with the animals, something beyond just human perception.
Exactly. It makes you wonder if there was something physically affecting the environment, something we don't fully understand.
It's like, okay, so maybe some people saw things, maybe they misinterpreted what they saw, but when animals start acting weird too, that's when you have to take notice.
I agree. And it's not just the Varginha incident either. There are tons of reports from other UFO sightings where people mention animals behaving strangely beforehand or during the event. It's a pattern that's hard to ignore.
Yeah. So we've got multiple sightings, strange creatures, possible military involvement. Sounds like a recipe for some serious conspiracy theories. But here's the thing. Despite all the rumors and eyewitness accounts, there's a lack of hard evidence. Like photos or videos. And in today's world, that's unusual, to say the least.
Right. It's the age-old problem with these kinds of events. People always ask, where's the proof? And in the case of Varginha, clear photographic evidence is pretty scarce, which just adds to the mystery.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, if something like this happened today with everyone having smartphones and cameras everywhere, wouldn't we have tons of photos and videos all over the internet?
Probably. But then again, maybe that wouldn't change anything. Maybe people would still find ways to dismiss the evidence or come up with even more elaborate theories. It's hard to say for sure.
True enough. But before we get too deep into those theories, let's take a step back and look at what the authorities had to say about all of this. Because, there had to be some kind of official investigation, right?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, it took them a while, but the Brazilian military finally released their official report on the Varginha incident back in 2010. And let me tell you, their explanations are definitely worth diving into. Yeah, 2010, that's 14 years after the fact? Makes you wonder what took them so long, right?
Seriously. So what's the official story then? Did they finally reveal what those mysterious creatures were?
Well, according to their report, That initial sighting, the one with the 3 young women, they claimed it was most likely a homeless man.
A homeless man. Seriously.
Yeah, apparently there was this guy known as Mudinho who was known to wander around Varginha. And Mudinho, get this, it means muggy.
So they're saying this Medino guy was mistaken for a 4-foot-tall creature with giant red eyes.
That's the gist of it. I mean, imagine if he was covered in mud that day. Could explain the strange skin the witnesses described.
I guess anything's possible. But what about those military trucks everyone was talking about? Did the report address that at all?
Oh, they did. Their explanation. Routine operation. Nothing to see here. Move along.
Of course. Just your average, everyday military operation involving whatever it was they were supposedly transporting.
Right. I mean, come on. You'd think they could come up with something a little more convincing than that.
Yeah.
Especially with everything else going on. What about the UFO sighting by Orlina and Yuriko? And those persistent rumors of the military cleaning up some kind of crash site?
Yeah, those are pretty big details to just brush aside. It's like they're acknowledging something strange happened, but trying to downplay it at the same time.
It's the classic cover-up playbook, isn't it? Give a little bit of information, but not enough to confirm or deny anything concrete.
Exactly. And that just fuels the speculation even more. I mean, think about Roswell. The government initially said it was a weather balloon, then changed their story to an experimental aircraft. Those inconsistencies are what kept those conspiracy theories alive all these years.
Totally. People are more likely to believe there's a cover-up when the story keeps changing. Speaking of which, there's another aspect to this whole Varginha thing that always sends chills down my spine, the case of Marco Elixires.
Oh, man. That's right. He was the soldier who supposedly died under some really mysterious circumstances after the incident.
Yeah. And the details surrounding his death are, well, they're pretty unsettling, to say the least. The official cause was a severe infection, but the timing of it, so soon after the Varginha events, it's just suspicious.
Yeah, and I remember reading somewhere that there were rumors he'd actually come into contact with that creature, the one the girls described.
Right, like did he get too close to something he shouldn't have? Did he contract some kind of, I don't know, alien virus? It sounds crazy, but when you consider everything else that was going on.
I know, right? It definitely adds another layer to the whole conspiracy theory. And it makes you wonder, if he did die from something extraterrestrial, is that why the military is being so tight-lipped about everything?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are they covering up something bigger than just a few UFO sightings? It wouldn't be the first time a government has kept secrets about potential extraterrestrial contact. And let's be honest, the whole alien virus thing, it's the stuff of sci-fi nightmares. But then again, reality often has a way of being stranger than fiction.
No kidding. But, even with all this talk of cover-ups and conspiracies, we have to acknowledge that there's still a lot we don't know about the Varginha incident.
I know.
It's like, where do you even begin to draw the line between what's plausible and what's just out there?
Right. And that's the thing with Varginha. It's this tangled web of eyewitness accounts, official statements that raise more questions than they answer. And then you've got these really unsettling details like Marco's death. It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. And it makes me think back to something you said earlier about how these events, they capture our imaginations.
They do.
Yeah.
They really do. Because on the one hand, you've got the skeptics saying, show me the hard evidence, the irrefutable proof, and that's a valid point. But then on the other hand, you've got these stories, these experiences that people report, and you can't just dismiss them entirely.
No, you can't. And, I'm sitting here thinking about all the people who were in and around Varginha back in '96, the ones who lived through those events firsthand. What must it have been like for them to experience something so strange, so unexplainable, and then to have the whole world debating whether or not it even happened?
I can't even imagine. To have your reality questioned like that, it must do something to you. And I think that's why it's so important to approach these topics with sensitivity, even when we're skeptical. Because behind every unexplained phenomenon, every strange encounter, there are real people who believe they saw something truly extraordinary.
That's a really good point. And it makes you wonder, what if there are things happening in our world, things beyond our current understanding that we just don't have the tools to explain yet?
Right. What if we're just scratching the surface of what's out there? I mean, for centuries, people have been reporting strange lights in the sky, unusual encounters, things that defy conventional explanation. And for the longest time, these stories were dismissed as folklore, superstition.
Exactly. But now, even scientists and government officials are starting to take the possibility of extraterrestrial life, of UFOs, more seriously. I mean, you mentioned Elizondo earlier. The fact that he, with his background in intelligence and defense, is so openly talking about these things, it just shows how much the conversation has shifted.
It really does. And I think that's a good thing. Because for too long, this topic has been shrouded in secrecy and ridicule. It's time we approach it with a more open mind, a willingness to consider possibilities that might seem outlandish at first glance.
I completely agree. So, where does this leave us with Varginha? What's the takeaway from all of this?
Honestly, I think the biggest takeaway is the importance of keeping an open mind. We may never know for sure what happened in Varginha, but the fact that it continues to fascinate and intrigue us, that it sparks these conversations about the unknown, about the limits of our understanding, that's what makes it so compelling.
Perfectly said. And, it's a good reminder that sometimes the best we can do is to acknowledge the mystery, to embrace the unknown. And who knows, maybe someday, with more research, more investigation, some of these mysteries will reveal themselves.
Maybe they will.
Yeah.
And until then, we keep asking the questions, we keep searching for answers, and we keep diving deep into these fascinating stories.
That's right. So to everyone listening, whether you're a diehard believer or a healthy skeptic, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Varginha incident. And remember, the world is a strange and wonderful place, full of mysteries waiting to be explored.
Until next time, keep your minds open and your curiosity piqued.
And as always, happy diving!